Imagine you're walking through life carrying a backpack. With every tough time you face, a stone gets tossed into it. A small argument? That's a little pebble. A big disappointment? That's a heavier rock. A really deep hurt, like someone letting you down badly? That's a huge, jagged boulder. Most of us just keep on walking. We feel the backpack getting heavier. Our shoulders start to ache. We slow down. Sometimes, we don't even know why we feel so tired all the time. We might try to shift the backpack around or just try to ignore how heavy it is. But what if I told you something amazing? What if those stones in your backpack aren't just dead weight making you tired? What if, hidden inside each and every stone, there's a secret map? A map that can lead you to a version of yourself who is stronger, wiser, and much, much freer than you feel right now. Today, we're not going to talk about how to ignore that heavy backpack. We're going to learn how to open it up, look closely at those stones, and find the surprising treasures they've been holding for you all along. We'll do this using a truly powerful method called radical forgiveness. And it might just change the way you see everything. Life can be tough. We all face challenges. Sometimes people hurt us. They disappoint us. They betray our trust. And when these things happen, it's natural to feel pain, anger, and resentment. It's human. We might think that holding on to that anger protects us, or that it somehow punishes the person who hurt us. But what if that anger, that resentment, is actually hurting us more? Think about it. When you carry around these heavy feelings, who is really suffering? It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. These unresolved hurts can become huge blocks in our lives. They can stop us from forming healthy, new relationships. They can make us scared to trust again. They can keep us stuck in a loop of negative thoughts and feelings, replaying the past over and over. It's like trying to drive a car forward while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. You're bound to crash, or at least, you won't get very far. Many of us want to forgive. We hear it's good for us. We know logically that letting go would be better. But it feels impossible. How can you forgive something that felt so wrong, so unfair? How can you just let it go when the pain is so real? This is where traditional ideas of forgiveness often fall short for people. They can feel like you're being asked to say that what happened was okay, or to forget the pain. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something much deeper, something that can bring true, lasting peace. We're talking about a way to release the burden of the past, not by condoning bad behavior, but by changing how we see it and how we see ourselves in relation to it. This is the heart of radical forgiveness. So what is this radical forgiveness, sometimes called the tipping method? It's an approach to emotional healing and forgiveness developed by a man named Colin Tipping. He was an English therapist who, through his work and his own life experiences, came to see forgiveness in a very different way. He realized that for many people, the usual ways of trying to forgive just didn't work. They might say the words, "I forgive you," but the anger and pain would still be there, simmering under the surface. Colin Tipping proposed a radical idea. He suggested that forgiveness isn't primarily about letting someone off the hook or saying what they did was acceptable. Instead, he believed that true forgiveness comes from a profound shift in our perception. It's about looking at every experience, even the most painful ones, as having a deeper purpose, a hidden lesson designed for our spiritual growth. Now, that might sound like a big leap for some, and that's okay. Stick with me here. The core idea of radical forgiveness is that everything that happens in our lives, absolutely everything, happens for a reason. And that reason, according to this philosophy, is to help us grow spiritually, to help our souls learn and evolve. This doesn't mean that harmful actions are good or should be excused. Not at all. The pain is real. The hurt is real. But radical forgiveness invites us to look beyond the surface story, the one where we are simply a victim of unfortunate events or someone else's bad behavior. It asks us to consider that maybe, just maybe, on a soul level, we chose these experiences to learn something vital. One of the key principles of radical forgiveness is the idea that victims and perpetrators, or the people involved in a painful situation, are in a way co-creators. Now, This is often the most challenging concept for people to grasp, and it's really important to understand it correctly. It does not mean blaming the victim. It does not mean that someone who was harmed is responsible for the harm done to them in the everyday sense. What it suggests is that, on a spiritual plane, before we even came into this life, our souls may have agreed to certain experiences, certain contracts with other souls to help each other learn specific lessons. So, the person who hurt you might be, on a soul level, a teacher, playing a difficult role to help you discover your own strength, your compassion, or your ability to set boundaries, for example. This is a very different way of looking at difficult people and situations. Instead of seeing them purely as sources of pain, we can begin to see them as catalysts for our own profound growth. Another vital principle is that forgiveness. This approach doesn't ask you to deny your feelings, your anger, your sadness, your grief. These are all valid and important. Radical forgiveness isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about creating a new story, a new framework around your experiences that allows those emotions to be processed and released in a healthier, more empowering way. It's about moving from a story of, "this terrible thing happened to me," to a story of, "this experience happened for me, for my growth." Even if I don't fully understand how yet, this shift can be incredibly liberating. It takes us out of the powerless victim role and puts us back in the driver's seat of our own healing journey. So how does one actually do radical forgiveness? It's not just a theory. Colin Tipping developed practical tools to help people apply these principles in their lives. One of the most well-known tools is the Radical Forgiveness Worksheet. There are different versions of these worksheets, but they all guide you through a process of reframing your story. They ask you to describe the situation that's causing you pain, who was involved, and what happened from your current, often victim-oriented perspective. Then, step by step, the worksheet gently encourages you to look at it from different angles. It might ask you to consider what perfection or hidden learning could be present in the situation. It might prompt you to think about what judgments you're holding and what those judgments say about your own beliefs. It helps you to articulate the victim's story and then to consciously create a new, radical forgiveness story where you see the spiritual purpose. For example, imagine someone was deeply hurt by a business partner who cheated them out of money. The initial story is one of betrayal, anger, and financial loss. The worksheet would allow them to express all of that. Then, it might guide them to consider questions like, what might my soul have been trying to learn through this experience? Could it be about self-reliance? About learning to trust my intuition more? About understanding my own relationship with money and security? By working through these questions, the person isn't saying the cheating was okay, but they might start to see that the experience, as painful as it was, pushed them to develop strengths they didn't know they had, or to reevaluate their priorities in a way that ultimately led to something better. The worksheet helps to uncover these potential positive outcomes and spiritual lessons that are often hidden beneath the immediate pain and anger. It's a structured way to shift your thinking. Beyond worksheets, radical forgiveness also incorporates tools like affirmations. These are positive statements that you repeat to yourself to help reinforce the new perspective you're trying to adopt. So, after working through a situation, you might use an affirmation like, I am willing to see the perfection in this situation, or I release the past and embrace the lessons I have learned. These affirmations help to reprogram your subconscious mind, which can often be stuck in old patterns of thought and belief. Energy healing techniques can also be part of the process for some people. The idea here is that unresolved emotional pain can create blockages in our energy system, and techniques like prayer, Satori breathwork, a specific breathing technique sometimes associated with radical forgiveness, or even just focused intention can help to release these blockages and restore flow. Colin Tipping also created an online platform and wrote several books that guide people through this work, making it accessible to many. Now, it's important to say that radical forgiveness, with its spiritual and sometimes metaphysical explanations, resonates most strongly with people who are open to these kinds of ideas. If you're someone who believes that there's more to life than what we see on the surface, if you're drawn to the idea that our experiences have a deeper meaning, And if you appreciate a structured, almost step-by-step approach to emotional healing, then radical forgiveness might be a really good fit for you. It's for those who are tired of feeling like victims and are ready to take responsibility for their own healing by changing their perception of the past. It's for those who suspect that even the most difficult chapters of their lives might contain hidden gifts. What are the real, tangible benefits of embracing this kind of forgiveness? Well, they can be truly life-changing. One of the biggest benefits is profound emotional release. Imagine finally putting down that heavy bag of rocks you've been carrying for years. That's what it can feel like to release old resentments and grievances. This release brings an incredible sense of inner peace and lightness. When you're no longer consumed by anger or bitterness about the past, your mind becomes quieter and calmer. This has a ripple effect on your entire well-being. Many people report sleeping better, feeling less anxious, and experiencing a greater sense of overall happiness. Another huge benefit is the improvement in relationships. When you're holding on to grudges, it's very hard to connect authentically with others. You might be defensive, mistrustful, or easily triggered. Radical forgiveness helps to dissolve those barriers. As you heal your own past wounds, you become more open, more compassionate, and more able to love and be loved. This applies not just to the specific relationships that caused you pain, but to all your relationships. You might find that your interactions with family, friends, and even colleagues become smoother and more fulfilling. You also start to attract different kinds of people into your life because your own energy has shifted. Perhaps one of the most powerful outcomes is a deep sense of personal empowerment. The victim story, while understandable, is ultimately a story of powerlessness. This happened to me and I couldn't stop it. Radical forgiveness flips that script. By choosing to see the perfection and the lessons in every experience, you reclaim your power. You realize that nothing can truly harm your essential self, your soul. You understand that you have the capacity to learn and grow from anything life throws your way. This builds incredible resilience and self-confidence. You're no longer afraid of what might happen, because you trust in your ability to find the meaning and the gift in it. This is true freedom. This process can also help you break lifelong negative patterns. So often, the hurts and traumas of our past, especially from childhood, create unconscious patterns of behavior. We might keep choosing the wrong partners, or sabotaging our success, or struggling with the same emotional reactions over and over again. Radical forgiveness helps to bring these patterns to the surface and understand their roots. By forgiving the past, by reframing those original painful experiences, we can release the energy that fuels these patterns. This allows us to make new choices and create a different future for ourselves, one that is aligned with our deepest desires for happiness, fulfillment, and success. Many people find that as they do this work, they naturally start making healthier choices, setting better boundaries, and pursuing their goals with renewed clarity and passion. Of course, some of these ideas, like soul contracts or the inherent perfection in all events, can be challenging to accept, especially when you're in the midst of deep pain. It's natural to feel skeptical. You might be thinking, does this mean what that person did to me was okay? Am I supposed to just forget about it and pretend it didn't hurt? Absolutely not. Radical forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior. It's not about letting people off the hook in the worldly sense. Justice and accountability still have their place. What it is about is freeing yourself from the emotional prison of resentment and victimhood. It's about recognizing that your peace of mind and your spiritual growth are too important to be held hostage by someone else's actions or by your attachment to a painful past. It's also not about spiritual bypassing, using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with difficult emotions. The emotions need to be felt and acknowledged. The worksheets, for instance, specifically encourage you to express your anger, sadness, and pain. The reframing comes after that acknowledgement, not instead of it. The goal is to transform the energy of those emotions, not to suppress them. Think of it like alchemy, turning lead into gold. The lead, the pain, the anger is real, but through a shift in perspective, Its nature can be transformed into something valuable: wisdom, compassion, strength. If this approach resonates with you, even just a little bit, what are some gentle first steps you could take? You don't have to dive into the deepest trauma right away. You could start with something smaller, a minor irritation or a past disappointment that still nags at you. You could try journaling about it. First, write down the story as you usually tell it. Who did what, how it made you feel. Then, try to look at it through a slightly different lens. Ask yourself, if there was a hidden gift in this for me, what might it be? What did I learn from this that I wouldn't have learned otherwise? How might this experience have, in some strange way, served my growth? You don't even have to believe it fully at first. Just be willing to explore the possibility. Another simple step is to become more aware of your own victim stories. We all have them. Listen to the way you talk about difficult experiences in your life. Do you often cast yourself as the helpless one, the one who was wronged? Notice how that feels in your body. Does it feel empowering, or does it feel heavy and draining? Just bringing awareness to these patterns is a huge first step. You can also explore Colin Tipping's books or website. There are many resources available that explain the concepts in more detail and provide practical exercises. The key is to approach this with curiosity and self-compassion. This isn't about forcing yourself to forgive. It's about opening yourself up to a new way of seeing, a new way of being that can lead to incredible healing and freedom. Remember, the journey of forgiveness, especially radical forgiveness, is a personal one. It's not a race, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's about your willingness to shift your perception and find the peace that is already within you, waiting to be uncovered. It's about understanding that true freedom doesn't come from changing the past, because we can't. It comes from changing our relationship to the past. It comes from realizing that every moment, no matter how challenging, holds the potential for growth and a deeper connection to our true selves. By embracing this, you're not just healing old wounds. You're stepping into a more empowered, joyful, and purposeful life. You are taking back your power to define your own experience, and that is a truly radical act. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of radical forgiveness. I hope it has given you some food for thought and perhaps a new perspective on any burdens you might be carrying. If this resonated with you, I encourage you to explore it further. The path to emotional freedom is always worth taking. If you found this video useful, give us a like to let us know. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon to be notified whenever we publish a new video. See you in the next one.